Let's talk 观点好谈. The Israel war against Hamas terror organization continues to escalate. On October 7th, Hamas militants carried out an unprecedented multi-front attack on Israel at daybreak, firing thousands of rockets as dozens of Hamas fighters infiltrated the heavily fortified border in several locations by air, land, and sea, and catching the country off guard on a major holiday. In response, Israel immediately retaliated with 2 airstrikes. This marks the most serious conflict and now in war in nearly 50 years. Now today we have a special guest with us. It's Israel's representative to Taiwan, Maya Yarin, to provide us insights into the impact of this war. Welcome, Maya. It's such a great honor to have you with us on the show.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
So first of all, I'd like to express my deepest condolences. These are the most darkest and the saddest days in Israel, and we do pray for the war to end as soon as possible. Now, as we just mentioned, you mentioned before to me that it's not the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which most international media has been referring to. It is the Israel war against Hamas terror organization that the Israel government is trying to clarify. Can you let us know more about why this clarification is so important?
Yes. I've also noticed that you referred to the Hamas as militants or as fighters, and I would like to take the terminology of terrorist.
Yes.
The reason why we're referring to this not as another round of or conflict between Israel and Palestinians is because we have a very direct distinction between Palestinian civilians, the Palestinian Authority who governs the West Bank, and the Palestinian Hamas terrorist organization who rules Gaza since 2007. This is a terrorist organization that has on its charter the declaration to annihilate the state of Israel and to fight all Jews around the world. This is a terror organization that is ruling the Gaza Palestinians without any care for their well-beings, putting their money into ammunition, weapons, and attacking Israel instead of taking care of their civilization and taking care of their water, energy, food, medication, education, everything that a normal government would have done. This is an organization that is targeting civilians, and this is exactly what we saw on Saturday morning.
Yes, indeed. It is a terrorist attack that is targeting, sadly, to the civilians, not the military base, but all like the civilians, the families, the elders, the infants. It's just brutal. And I would like to know if any of your family and friends are safe right now.
So fortunately, for me, my family is safe. And unfortunately, we hear too many sad stories from friends who were directly affected. I think that there is no house or family in Israel that has not been affected or knows someone who got kidnapped, who is now in Gaza, who was murdered. We have more than 1,200 civilians who were murdered or who has been wounded, and we have now more than 7,000 people wounded. Some of them, hundreds of them, are still in critical condition. So this has been affecting many people. I have a friend who was released after 2.5 days of being hostage by Hamas. I have friends who were killed. The business partner of my husband, she has a family member, 22 years old, who died at the music party.
Oh,
so we know this from all around.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the Hamas has kidnapped so many Israeli hostages currently. And is the Israel government working any on the rescue?
So there are more than 150 innocent civilians who are now being kidnapped and held in Gaza Strip. I'm talking babies, toddlers, young women, teenagers, elderly, ill people, disabled people on wheelchair. They took everyone. The way that they took them, they were putting babies in cages, dog cages, to take a lot of them. They were raping young women while they were forcing them to go to Gaza. Hamas is acting like ISIS. And we know all of this because Hamas was live streaming and taking videos, laughing while they were doing that. This is how we know the information. I want to refer to Thomas and mention his daughter Emily, who was 8 years old on Saturday. He was just telling the press yesterday how happy he was when he discovered that his child was murdered. He was happy as a father that she got killed because he knew the alternative of being kidnapped and hostage by Hamas in Gaza would be much horrible.
This is so heartbreaking.
This is such a serious crime of keeping the hostages. And what we're doing now is we need to make sure that Hamas understand that keeping these hostages is a liability. It is not an asset. They need to receive pressure from the Palestinian population so they will release all hostages. There should be an international cry to call for the release of everybody. This is a war crime.
As you mentioned about the Gaza Strip and how they can just kidnap all these men, women, infants, elders to the Gaza Strip, we'd like to let the Chinese audience have a better understanding of the Middle East and where the location is, the Gaza Strip. So on this screen, we'll be showing the Middle East. So this is the Middle East location, and we can see that there is Lebanon, Syria, and also Jordan, and there is Israel, Egypt. And right there, Israel, we can see Jerusalem. And that yellow area, as we go closer, now we look at the Gaza Strip area, we can see that the population of Taipei and the Gaza Strip is actually the estimation is quite close. Yeah. So the Chinese audience can have a better idea of so this part would be Israel and then to the Gaza Strip. It's really close by. It's just...
Yes, I would like to mention one more point, and that is Gaza Strip is also having a border with Egypt.
Oh, yes.
Which means that every time that there is an international discussion about a blockade of Gaza, there should be remembered that there is another opening, Rafah border pass to Egypt. And there is a lot of control and a lot of goods that can come across from Egypt to Gaza. And there is a choice of another country about this and an involvement of Egypt about the situation.
And what is their choice?
Well, for a long time, the Rafah opening has been open. Actually, the same as the two other border crossings that Israel and Gaza were having. Only a week ago, if you were going to all these three border crossings, you would have seen them open with many trucks, foods, supplies, people crossing. It was an open and active border crossing between the two countries and Gaza Strip. This all ended when Hamas was deliberately attacking the two border passing with Israel. They were coming across with bulldozers that were provided to them as part of their rehabilitation efforts following the previous rounds. So instead of taking good use of that bulldozers and other materials, they were using them to attack Israel. Now following that, both border passes to Israel are completely ruined. They killed all soldiers that were there, and there is no way to cross. Now the crossing to Rafah, to Egypt, is also closed because of the current war.
Well, as you mentioned, as the Hamas infiltrated into Israel, we see that they blockade the West Bank. And is there any hidden threat in the future that nearby countries or even geopolitically or even the world should be aware of?
Okay. So as the war started on Saturday and we realized, and it took us some time to realize the situation on the ground, Israel immediately reinforced its forces all around Israel, through the West Bank, through the area surrounding Gaza Strip, to the northern border with Lebanon and Syria. We are now going through recruitments of 360,000 Israeli people to our military. They're going now into preparation, intensive training for this war. We're having many, many volunteers who are guarding the villages and the civilian cities. We're taking under consideration that taking the chaos that was happening on Saturday, we had Hamas terrorists who entered Israel, and we're looking and continue to look for them. It took a few days to find some of them, but this is something that is ongoing. So we will make sure that there will not be a threat and that the security comes back to all the territory of Israel.
I see. Well, as we know that the Hamas, this attack caught Israel off guard. So I'm sure that everyone would be questioning this question about, is there an issue going on with the Israel's intelligence gathering system?
This attack was an unexpected one. Yes, we will be the first one to say that there was no previous warning for this, and we were caught off guard about it. It was not only us and our intelligence. Actually, it was also all the international organizations and the UN agencies working on the ground inside Gaza. None of them, even a week before the attack, were ever indicating that there is something coming close. On the contrary, during the last 2 years, there's been an enormous effort to improve the economic situation of the civilian population in Gaza. And the different countries and UN organizations were working hard in coordination with Israel to bring much more support to the civilian population. We were so certain that there is a positive trend on that we only recently started to talk about long-term projects like Gas for Gaza and Gaza Marine, and all of this ended. So yes, there are many lessons that we need to learn. There will be, of course, as usually in Israel, an inquiry committee. We will have many things that we will need to improve and change. And it's not only our security. I think the lessons that we will learn will be valid for many other countries around the world. But now it's not the time. We have not yet even buried our own dead people. You know, it takes a long time to bury 1,200 people, civilians who got murdered. This is the time now to fight. It's the time for war. We have to protect ourselves. And after that, we will make sure that we learned the lessons for the future.